we got everything cleaned up back here. Got the rear main end, these plates bolted up. These just take regular old silicone. Same stuff I used on the oil pan. Be gentle with your rear main seal. You're gonna put the oil cooler back on. This is a interesting little fact I found. Same part for Nissan V6 350Z VQ. So hopefully this fits. Pretty sure it looks right to me. Looks good. Put a little oil on that. It's a little bit big actually. Alright, we got her in there. Put a little oil on there and then put her back in how she went. Connect your hoses, tighten up the 24mm stud. Well, we went to remove the one stud that was completely stripped out from previous install, and the stud snapped. I should have known that was going to happen, but it felt like it was actually coming out. Should have heated the turbo up, but honestly don't know how much the MAP gas would have done, and our oxyacetylene is out of oxygen right now. So as you can see, now I'm attempting to extract the remainder of the stud. It broke about probably like a millimeter and a half inside of the housing, so a little bit in there. So what I did was first weld a washer, try to fill it all up, and then I grinded it smooth and then welded this nut to that washer. Hopefully that works. I already did this once, and the first initial weld I could see wasn't that good with the washer, so I'm hoping this one ends up a little better. But if this one doesn't, if this one breaks, then it is what it is. I can't really do much about it. I'm just gonna have to leave it. He was already missing this top bolt when the car came in, so at least he'll be getting this one put back in. And yeah, might be missing that one over near the wastegate, but we will see what happens. Feels pretty cool to the touch, so we're gonna give her a shot. Cross your fingers, or your toes, or whatever you choose to. Yep. It was holding on there pretty decent though. But alright, one last time. One more nut and that's gonna be it. Because hopefully next time the washer breaks off, because if I can't get the washer to break off, then we're in a whole nother predicament. Then I'm grinding that down smooth. That's gonna take a little while, but alright, let's grab another nut. Alright, attempt number 2. Oh, actually 3, but number 2 that you guys are seeing. Oh, there goes the impact. Relatively cold. I think we'll give her a shot. Oh man, I break the battery. Did the pig iron battery break? Everybody's been telling me I shouldn't have bought these things. Oh, it broke. Alright. Milwaukee True batteries for the win. Yep. That thing ain't coming out of there. Alrighty. You're not getting that bolt replaced, bud. Sorry. Alright, made a little room on the table here. Took all my tools. Well, first I cleaned off Bert's cart, cleaned it up, put all my tools over here, cleaned up the table, got some room. Here's the old clutch. As you can see, it is completely wasted down to the rivets on this side, and on the other side it's nearly at the rivets. I think it's at these ones actually. I think these are like the warning ones, and those are like the actual. But Either way, she's cooked. You can see how much depth is in there on a brand new one. But we got the right clutch and we got the right flywheel. Like $800 later. So either way, we're gonna bolt up this flywheel now. Flywheel to crankshaft, 53 foot-pounds. All right, couldn't film because it kind of requires two hands and an extra company. But these are all 53 foot-pounds. I was wrong. I thought it was 70 something. 53. Go in a what's it called? A star pattern. So go across, go back, go back up, go across again, go over, go across, blah blah blah. You get it. Don't just go around in a circle, because if you do, you're gonna be messing it up. And you're gonna need somebody to hold your crank pulley, or you're gonna have to find some way to lock it itself. What you can do is get your ratchet, well, not with this exhaust setup, but you can position your ratchet to rest up against the frame rail. But it takes a little maneuvering, and also you can get a flywheel lock tool that sits in here and kind of just rests in there. I'm gonna make one of those myself eventually. Now that that's on, next step is the clutch. Next, grab your pressure plate. You're gonna have to align it on these dowel pins. And then you'll put in your 6 pressure plate bolts. But I'm not gonna film any of this because I need to be focused. All right, you got all your bolt holes lined up, 3 dowel pins lined up. You know you're good to go. What I typically do is I take 2 bolts, thread them in across from each other just to hold it in place. And then the next 2 I'll lock tight and start tightening them down, or get them finger tight, pull these ones back out, lock tight them, and then put the last 2 in. Pressure plate bolts are 142 inch-pounds, and same thing, you want to go in a star pattern. Usually I snug them all up a little before I even start the actual torque process. Alright, once they're all starting to get snugged up, then you can actually go ahead and torque them. You don't want to rush this process and bolt your pressure plate on crooked. My torque wrench shows the foot-pounds as I'm going, so I'm getting them all to 100. And then I'm going to continue to the full 142. Alright, go back around once more, double check. Alright, you're good to go. You can pull out your alignment tool. Clutch is in place. Now you're ready to put the tranny back in, once you get your clutch fork and throwout bearing situated. Alright, so you want to put some lube here where your throwout bearing is going to ride, here where the pilot bearing is going to ride, some on these grooves just to help assembly, make sure this rod is well lubed, no dirt. I gotta wipe all the dirt off of there. And then also on these little tabs, little forks where the fork pushes on the throttle bearing and rides on it. So put a little dab there, little dab there. Just smear it all around the edges of the fork, on the spine, and here as well. And with this style throwout bearing, when you put it together, you're gonna have to, before you bolt your sleeve up, you're gonna have to push your clutch fork that way, backwards towards the back of the car, in order to push the throwout bearing and clip it into the pressure plate. And as you saw when we removed it, we had to remove this rod, because if not, that snap ring would be holding it on and you'd be ripping your pressure plate out with it. But when you're installing a new one, you can do it this way. Much easier. Alright, and the rod has a notch in it. You have to make sure you line it up and get it pushed all the way in there. Then you can unscrew your bolt, put your plug back in, and then I gotta unbolt this slave cylinder from here. Not using this one. And I should probably put the boot on there as well before we get too far into this. And I'm gonna use the other plug. These threads are a little messed up. Alright, so tighten that up. Get your boot off of the other trans, or if you already have it, gonna have to unbolt that and we'll show all that. Alright, you got the shift boot on, we got the plug in, pilot bearing ready, everything's good to go. Get your trans jack ready. Make sure everything's good up here. One last check. Nothing's gonna be in your way. Typically, I like to get the jack stand and a piece of wood, lift up on the motor, usually off the oil pump right there, but maybe just go off the header in this case, just to keep the motor in one fixed position. Usually you have to jack it up a little bit so that it wants to tilt backwards like this. That's how they naturally sit. So just put a little pressure on that, so then when you're installing, it's not wiggling around and fighting you. But yeah, about to get to it. One other thing is sometimes there's a little like catch plate, bolts here and here, opposite side, two 10mm bolts. It's just a little steel plate that kind of like collects oil leaking from your rear main, and it's more of like a dust cover so stuff doesn't get up in your clutch. This car doesn't have it, but if your car does have it, I suggest removing it before you try to put your trans in, because odds are it might be a little bent and your bottom of your bell housing is going to catch on it. It's just going to be a big pain, so get that out of your way if you have it.
You're a little too hard there, boss.
One last thing, if you're actually swapping the trans, like I am in this case, double check, make sure your, I guess they call it the H link here, make sure your link is there, because I almost installed this thing without it on there, and that would have been an absolute nightmare trying to install all the way in position. So glad I saw that, but if you're just doing your clutch, you won't have to worry about that. It's a Pro Gigolo. Got it in there, splines are lined up. Basically, you just want to see like very minimal gap between the bell housing surfaces. You know, less than like quarter inch maximum, probably less than 1/8 of an inch ideally. But you'll know when it's in there. Don't force it. Don't just start railing bolts in. But now that we're good, we're gonna start bolting it up, get this jack out of here. We can support the back half with the trans jack, and we'll get the cross member back in here. Make sure you do your shifter linkage first, because it's much easier to do right now. All right, we got the shift linkages bolted up. We got all the bell housing bolts in and tight besides the starter. I just locked the throttle bearing into place. What you're gonna do is push it backwards like that. You'll hear it snap, and then you'll be able to feel that it's locked in. Good to go on that end. I'd use my Milwaukee ratchet, but I would recommend going around by hand with a hand ratchet and double checking all the tightness on all the bell housing bolts. That looks beautiful. I'm gonna clean these threads up, and hopefully they actually come out decent. Once those are cleaned up, I'm gonna take all these bolts out of here, and we're gonna put the trans cross member up. Probably gonna wipe it down a little because it is coated in oil right now, and I want to make sure, you know, the guy doesn't think it's leaking. So do that. This thing's absolutely empty on oil, so we got to make sure we buy some gear oil for him. And yeah, next first I'm gonna do this cross member, and then probably next I'll go and do that slave cylinder, and then after that I'll do the starter. Alright guys, we got that cross member in. Still have to tighten that top starter bolt there. Make sure you align this bracket. Oh boy, we got her stuck. Make sure you align this bracket like this. So you have to hook up your ground wire there, but got it all situated. We bolted up the clutch slave cylinder. I think this guy needs a new master cylinder or slave cylinder combo, because the thing feels pretty soft still. Feels like it has air or just not a good seal. So guess we will attempt to bleed that tomorrow if Bert or Eddie's here, but that's a whole nother situation. But either way, gotta end the video here. Just gotta do the intercooler, the downpipe, and the drive shaft, but all that is pretty self-explanatory. Wow, another beauty of this machine. How do you even do that, people? Like, that should just be over here. Just solve all your problems. But anyway, and then that, like, okay, sure. Rest it on your timing cover, bud. Anyway, it just never ends. I'm gonna stop here. I hope you enjoyed the video. Peace out. Come back for the next one. Like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Thank you.